Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. Yes. Welcome to the 27th regular luncheon meeting of the Rotary Club of Makati. I am Rotarian Andy Manyalak, and I will be your moderator for today. Now, may I call on our President, Michael Escaler, to call the meeting to order.
By the power vested upon me of the Rotary Club of Makati, I hereby call this meeting to order.
Thank you very much, President Michael. Now may I call on Director Sunny Tambunting Jr. to deliver the invocation.
Please rise. Dear Lord, as we gather here today as members of Rotary, we pray that we ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens and to our community, keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas and those things upon which future generation can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better world. Amen.
Thank you very much, Director Sunny. May I request everyone to remain standing and put their right hands on their chest for the Philippine National Anthem, to be followed by the Rotary Club Makati hymn.
Stand proud, we are leaders with integrity, always ready to serve humanity, always living by the four-way test, building goodwill and peace along the way, giving hope to the world. We're the Rotary Club of Makati, prepared to aid our fellow men, as true Rotarians we live to lead. We believe in service above self, and this is why we succeed. We're the Rotary Club of Makati, and together we stand proud. We are leaders with integrity, always ready to serve humanity, always living by the four-way test, building goodwill and peace along the way, giving hope to the world.
Thank you very much. And so that we may commit the four-way test to mind and heart, may I request every Rotarian to repeat after me. Of the things we think, we say, and we do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you very much, everyone. You may now take your seats as we recognize the birthday and wedding anniversary celebrators. We'd like to greet happy birthday to the following Rotarians. Past President Ruben Valerio, April 11. Happy birthday. Toto Cruz, April 12. June Lumagi, April 13. Teto Garcia, April 15. Past President Charlie Rufino, April 17. Happy birthday. For the Rotary Aunts, Mache Ackerman, April 12. Patricia Young, April 17. And for the wedding anniversaries, Louis and Tisa Fernandez, April 14. Happy anniversary, sir. Porsche and Delia Peña on April 15. At this point, we would like to acknowledge the visiting Rotarians and guests present today. For our dignitaries, PDG Tony Quila, PDG Sid Garcia, hi sir. DJND Reggie Nolido. And for the aunts, Yvonne Kwan. She's online right now. And Terry Tambunting. Good afternoon. We also have our very special guests. Alvaro Lon, guest of President Michael. Lance Bosch, son of Rotarian James Bosch. Welcome. Charlie Horn, guest of PP Cesar Campos. And also former member of RC Makati. Yes. Rene Benitez, former past president of RC Makati. And Mr. Mike Cruz, guest of Peter Cuyuto. Now, before we proceed to the next segment, may we call on PDG Tony Quila for the recognition of Paul Harris Fellows.
Thank you, Andy. I'd like to call our newest member to be acknowledged for his third Paul Harris Fellow. So he will get a pin with 2 sapphire stones. James Bosch. James.
Thank you very much, PDG Tony, and thank you to Rotarian James Bosch for your generous contribution. Now, at this stage in this program, let us hear from our president for his report.
Good afternoon to all our fellow Rotarians and our honored guests. Happy Easter to everyone. I hope you had a good Easter break. We're back, rested and refreshed, and a welcome and much deserved break from the care of life and living. Thank you to the ants and the handful of Rotarians who joined the recollection and Visita Iglesia spiritual activities in preparation for Holy Week. Special thanks to Terry Tambunting for organizing it. Thank you. I am also happy to report that the community center in Atok, Benguet, which we helped fund, has been completed. Allow me to share the RCM video news for the project.
The COVID-19 pandemic slowed things down, prompting people to put on hold their plans, if not abandon them altogether. Thankfully, COVID is now on the way out and projects that had been deferred can now be recommissioned. One of the projects that RC Makati held off was the construction of a community center in Atok, Benguet. After a delay of 2 years, we got word from our brother club, RC Baguio Summer Capital, that the construction of the center has been resumed. On March 31, IPP Louis Asioche, together with COS Ron and Richard, traveled to Baguio City to inaugurate the project. On April 1st, they motored to the project site in Abiang, Atok for the formal ceremony along with members of RCPSC. They were met at the site by Atok Mayor Franklin Smith for the formal turnover of the center and to witness a brief program that the Abiang Women Farmers Association had prepared. Messages were thereafter delivered by Mayor Franklin, President Fidel Kiambao, and IPP Tolitz Villanueva of RCBSC and IPP Louis.
Ang isang pangarap, pag maganda ang objective, it is noble objective, it will be done, it will be completed, and it will be finished. And that's why you have a finish. A half finish pa pala to. Tatapusin pa natin to. No?
The program also featured entertainment that featured a song and dance number that honored the local culture. The one-story community center will benefit 50 households of the Abiang Women Farmers Association. It will house a cooperative store and provide a space for livelihood trainings. It also has provisions for expansion to a second floor. RC Makati co-founded the construction at 100,000 pesos, with RCBSC and other donors contributing an additional 160,000 pesos. This project can now enable the women farmers of Abiang to jumpstart their co-op store and begin their skills training program in order to boost the economy in their village. This only shows that even if RC Makati is an all-male club, it fully recognizes the power of women as a driving force in the upliftment of the economic conditions in the community.
Thank you again, IPP Louis Asioche, for always being there for us and bringing the flag of the Rotary Club of Makati everywhere we serve. Maraming salamat. You always do us proud. Thank you. We continue to pursue our program on malnutrition, concentrating on young children and lactating mothers, specializing in 0 to 5-year-old, because as we know, that's when their brains are being formed. And so we are focusing our resources to feed the 0 to 5 children and their lactating mothers. We are joining the other clubs in the district for the first 1,000 days project, another initiative to arrest the malnutrition among children, then leading to stunting growth. During the Holy Week, Chief of Staff Ron Dotaro attended an orientation on the project with our daughter club, RC Makati Central, as a head club. We will be supporting this very worthy endeavor. In the same vein, I would like to acknowledge our baby Rotarian V. Lim for personally organizing his own charity and feeding program in the heart of Tondo. He has been doing this from his personal funds over many years, and I was very, very happy to be able to see this myself personally. Thank you again, everyone, for attending this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President Michael. And now may I call on Past President Tito Panlilio to introduce our very special guest speaker.
Okay, good afternoon, fellow Rotarians and guests, and Terry. Yeah, and welcome to our former member, Charlie Horn. Long time no see, good to see you. Okay, Charlie. Last time I saw Charlie, we were in Angeles City, right, just outside of Clark. I remember. You own the restaurant there, Blue Room, right? Okay, thank you. Well, introducing our guest speaker today is perhaps to me is the most comfortable thing to do. We have known each other since grade school days. And in fact, nagde-deja vu ako. I was standing there, Michael was standing in front of me, and Ricky was standing there. Nagde-deja vu ako because it was just like the time when we were in grade school. We would sing the national anthem. We were all lined up according to height. And I would be the tallest, Michael would be the middle, and Ricky would be the shortest. Of course, there were other shorter classmates like Buboy Garavillo. But that's the deja vu I entered my mind when I was standing at the back of Michael and Ricky. Yes, we have known each other since grade school days. And it is not surprising that we become very close because we're also cousins. Together with Ricky, together with Michael. And of course, Ricky has first cousins here in the person of Leo De Leon and Tony Albi Lopez, our treasurer. First cousins of Ricky. So Ricky is very much at home. And perhaps the only thing missing now is for President Michael to invite Ricky to become a member of our club. And of course, together with Sid and June, yes, we were all in the core group in high school. Make a long story short, I believe we ran the high school then, the mafia that we had. No, we practically handled most of the extracurricular activities as president, vice president, etc. But anyway, those were the halcyon days. Now are difficult times, but fortunately, with the help of God, we are where we are, surviving and perhaps comfortable in life. I will not repeat what was given to me as the resume of our speaker. No, it is in our kaunlaran. But this is the only thing I can say before I sit and introduce him officially. Ricky is a master, an expert in family business development. He's been at it for the last 25 to 30 years. Of course, also coming from a well-experienced managerial life. And of course, also as an entrepreneur, because his family actually founded what is now a legacy institution in the Philippines, Red Ribbon. Okay? So together with his family, siblings, and mom, they built Red Ribbon to what it was. And of course, up to now, as I said, it's a legacy company. So without further ado, fellow Rotarians and Anne, Ricky Mercado.
Thank you so much, Tito. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Easter. I hope you all had a good Holy Week. I was actually preparing my talk during Holy Week time. So I'm not sure if I injected certain spiritualities there. It's really up to you whether you'd like to interpret anything there that is very spiritual or not. What I will actually share with you rather than talk, I'd like to share with you what we have learned on family business succession. There are two types of succession, the management succession and the money succession, and I will deal with the management. I'm not going to deal with inheritance. I'm not going to deal with financial. It is better perhaps if a lawyer dealt with that, because I'm sure you have a lot of issues or concerns regarding inheritance. No? So in my presentation, I actually hope that by the time I finish, you have a good idea on what succession planning is and the process. In the Ateneo Family Business Development Center, we actually develop a process catering to our culture. There's so much influence as far as the Western is concerned, but despite that, we adopted the universal concepts of the Western concepts, and some we translated that will basically cater to our Philippine style. No? Let me... I have my clicker. I hope it works. No? I will actually start with presentations of actual situations on family succession, the difficulties that family members shared with us. No? So, well, it's not working. Okay, no, before I start, on August 27 and 28, we have a family business workshop. This is an advertisement, rather, with Dennis Jaffe, whom we are inviting. He's a sought-after speaker from the US and he's been all over Asia. And Mr. Hans Lata, who basically took his graduate degree in Harvard, married to a Filipina. So he's familiar with family business here. We're going to have a workshop in the campus in the university on August 27 and 28. We will send you more details regarding this. I will probably, with your permission, if I can get those who would want to, their email addresses from Michael or Tito, so that I can we can send you information on this. No? This is from a daughter who approached us, and these were her words. My mother founded the business and grew the business with me acting as her executive assistant. So I was well exposed to the business for several years. When my mother passed away 2019, my dad asked me to be the CEO president. However, he will continue to micromanage the family business, which is kind of conflicting. His interference has been a problem to the employees and the business. This is a serious problem, not just for me, but also of my other two siblings. These are real cases that were brought to us, to me in particular. I'm actually clicking, but it's not changing. No? Can I have the next slide? Okay. This is an email that was sent to me by a son complaining about the father. No definite, this is actual. I did not edit anything in the email. No definite method of succession. The past method my father wants is for me to sit by his side for the whole day and listen and observe. Then I was told that he will know I am ready if my decision and his decisions are always the same. My God. Which I think will not be possible. When I was in high school, I have already sat by his side on weekends and summer to observe and listen. Also during breaks when I was in college. After graduation, I noticed that most of the problems discussed were the same problems when I was still in high school. So I stopped sitting in his office and started to implement solutions to these problems. But sometimes I feel that this gives him the impression that I'm not doing anything because I'm not in his office, and I'm not ready because I did not sit by his side. A very difficult situation, you know, and the son is actually very frustrated. Here's another one. You probably know this. This is from Philippine Daily Inquirer. There's nothing secret about this. It was published. You've had your chance, Janson's siblings were told. The matriarch, 85-year-old Olivia Villaflor Janson of the feuding Janson clan of Bacolod City, yesterday made an impassioned appeal to her 4 children behind the recent boardroom coup that grabbed control of the country's largest bus company from their youngest sibling and longtime company president, Leo Ray Janson. To make this slide more presentation, let me just give you some news I picked up from the Inquirer. This is the biggest bus company in the country with 4,000 buses, 17,000 employees, moving 700,000 people daily, with an annual revenue of 15 billion per year. That's a wow, right? Now, I'll make it more exciting. 30% of 50 billion is the profit. 50% of the profit is set aside for dividend among the 7 family members, 6 children and mother. That's over 300 million pesos per year per family member. Gusto ko na ngang magpa-adapt so that I don't have to work. But unfortunately, hindi ako tinatanggap, no? But let me continue with the slide. Okay? You had your chance, sabi ng nanay, to prove yourselves while your father was alive, referring to the late Ricardo Sr., who passed away in 2015, leaving the multi-billion transportation empire in the hands of their youngest son, Leo Ray. Olivia, that's the mother, defended the decision of her late husband to bypass all his older children and entrust the company to his youngest, saying he placed great value on merit and competence, which is actually the basis for choosing. But the process in putting the youngest son may have sparked the problem, because when the father passed away, according to the news article, leaving the multi-billion empire to the hands of the youngest. So most likely other family members were shocked. There was no succession process. It would probably have changed the situation if there was a transparency in choosing who would be the next successor, getting all family members involved. And that's what we are very, very mindful of. Unfortunately, because of what happened, nagkaroon nga ng coup, the 4 children went on their own, grabbed power. The mother with the daughter and the youngest Leo Ray were on the other side. They actually ended up in court. Despite the 300 million a year you get, you don't want to get into trouble with your family members. But yet it happened. Okay? An unnecessary delay in the succession process or failure to dedicate enough time to these important steps can have a destructive impact on the future of the company, even if the firm has enjoyed a great deal of success until that point. All the companies that I sampled to you were all doing well. Holy Week, Triduum, I was attending recollection in Ateneo, and a family member approached me and said, "We're doing well. I'm in my 60s. I want to retire, but my son seems to be overwhelmed with the things to do in the company. So we have a problem." So again, the process of transmitting authority and power needs to be put in place. Just this morning, I received a text from another family where their friend texted me and said, "Ricky, this family is going to hell because the business is very successful, but when the parents died during the pandemic, one after the other, they did not have any plans, and now the eldest daughter is in charge, and her way of managing is my way or the highway. The eldest son is actually intelligent, but is not involved. The youngest is involved, but sabi dun sa text, he's a disaster. And one of the sisters is actually going through depression. Ang dami, no? So, I don't know if I will check my phone later, if there will be more text messages and emails. So I'm taking a break from that, no? This is actually, pero wala. It's not coming out, no? Nakalabas na dito, pero wala doon. There's the left hand is okay. This is what happened. I got this cartoon from Queen Alichua. No, she's one of our board members. By the way, Tito Panlilio is also one of our board members in the center. So this is what happens when a family business doesn't have a succession plan. You look at the CEO. No? Next slide, please. Oh. I'm not sure if it's clear there. It doesn't show it's clear, no? But anyway, this is actually a graph by Dennis Jaffe. And the message here is this, quickly. The first generation start the business. They move it to the second generation. There's still a substantial amount of success. But when you go to the cousins, there's a dramatic increase in failure of family businesses. According to research and readings, it's because it's more difficult to work with cousins. But if planning for succession is properly put in place, we can significantly reduce the amount of failure. Okay, that's what it says. Next slide, please. We did a survey of family businesses just to find out how we can help. And the survey was done with the many family businesses we've encountered in seminars. No? The number one issue of family businesses is harmony in the family. Believe you me, I did not realize that that was the number one issue. I thought the number one issue was money. But if you look at the financial issues, they're on the lower echelon of the survey. The second issue is growth direction, and succession is third. These three were actually very close to one another, almost statistically tied, but we still needed to rank them. Naturally, if you have a dysfunctional family, you cannot have a unified direction. Everybody has his own. Again, when it comes to succession, power struggle is always the name of the game. I should succeed. I'm better than my kuya, or kuya says, I'm the kuya, I'm the best one. There's a struggle only because there was no planning, and no planning could have been done because there was no succession planning. Next slide, please. Planning for succession. Succession is a complex process that involves many factors at the family and organizational level. A healthy succession is one that is well planned, and which family and non-family members contribute to the process. This is where the Janssen lacked the process of involving everyone, but rather seemingly from the article, family members were surprised when the leadership was handed over to the youngest. No? Next slide, please. Again, these are graphics of bringing in family members without any roadmap, so they get lost. Next slide, please. Okay, another one. I'm just trying to depict here graphics showing the next one, please. And another one. Next. So I just showed you actually graphics of children getting lost because it is natural the parents and the founders, while they started the business and grew the business, they're not necessarily trained to train their children to basically blend with the family business. They're very, very focused on the business, and you can't blame them. That's why we step in to help in planning their succession for the children to come in. Okay, can we please move on this content of the slides? Tuloy-tuloy na po. Okay. The founders, this is the usual. No? This is from Leon Danco, one of the pioneers of family business articles. No? By the way, family business is a very young field. It basically started in the 80s. So it's a very young field. Academically, research, there's not much. But we're trying to accelerate research on this. Founder unwilling to engage in succession due to fear of retirement or death. You know, when we deal with families, especially in succession, we tell them, you know, when you retire or when you're gone, so they're not very comfortable with that. No? So sometimes we just stick to when you retire or you're disabled, we are trying to remove that word when you die, you know? Because otherwise they'll probably close their ears on us. No? But it's true. When we talk of succession, we also need to mention that when you're gone, no? The lack of interest in succession, reluctant to go, do not realize the importance of succession planning. That's why we need to educate. Hopefully, this is what I'm doing now to make you learn what succession is. Reluctant to relinquish power, does not accept his limitation, believes only he can run the business well. Again, you cannot blame the founders for thinking this way, but we need to also help them realize that you cannot be fixated on this. Otherwise, there won't be any succession. If there are any founders here or parents, and you resonate with what this slide is actually showing, we don't blame you. You started the business, you make it grow, and you think you're the only one who can make it grow further. Okay, next slide, please. This is actually an advertisement of Patek Philippe. I don't own one. I hope I own one if I was adopted by the Janson family. But what does it say? Next slide, please. You never actually own this watch. You merely look after it for the next generation. You're a steward, di ba? And it's the same thing for family businesses. You look after it for the younger generation to continue growing the business. Next slide, please. Leon Danco, one of the pioneers, as I mentioned, in writing about family business. Can you please continue on? Tuloy-tuloy na on this slide. Three things, three components, important components. You have to have a unified family. Remember that survey we made? Harmony in the family, it actually aligns with this, no? An owner who initiates the process early and guides it to completion, the founder, the parents should initiate, which we find very difficult. That's why we're trying to educate them to please initiate the succession process, because we need their cooperation throughout the transition. Able and committed participants. Younger generation are willing to work together to preserve the valuable family asset. Okay, next slide, please. There's a book by Mr. Chen. This was actually published by HBR, Harvard Business, Inside Chinese Family Businesses. I got excited when I saw this book because we deal a lot also with many Filipino Chinese family businesses. Next slide, please. I'll show you the content. It says in that book, succession traditionally was for maintaining a family heritage and tradition. But today, it creates the opportunity for reorganizing a business as it is passed on to the next generation. Succession is now forcing businesses to adopt new and often foreign practices. What does this mean? When a succession is taking place, the difficulty with many founders is grow this business, stay in this business. This is what we know. But the younger generation now are saying, we would like to grow this business, but we don't want to just stay in this business. We want to diversify, which many of the founders resist because, well, this is their business. They started it. They're in love with it. Make it grow. Yes, we will, but we will not just stay in this business. We want to diversify. That's the difference. Now, next slide, please. The new generation of heirs frequently receive Western education and attend professional business schools. This is an example of John Gokongwei. In fact, he did not finish college, but he basically started their businesses, and you know where they are today. Lance Gokongwei, Western educated, Wharton, Latin honors, moved on in growing the business. So he was given the leeway to diversify and grow the business. And when John Gokongwei passed away, smooth transition, hardly anything felt, no earth-shaking event that happened with JG Summit. Okay. Often this generation breaks away from the tight family network, and traditionalist conservatism of the family business launched new ways of management in the existing family business and new independent ventures of their own. This is what we're trying to avoid. When family members are unhappy, they tend to go on their own. Teka, what about our family business which we started? Stay with it, make it grow. That's what we want younger generations to do. Next slide, please. Because of succession, globalization, and professionalization pressures, professionalization, by the way, is really bought by the younger generation, but still rejected by many founders. Now, this is where we find it difficult in trying to convince the founders. which is actually a separate topic altogether. Many companies have been moving to hybrid, familial, to semi-traditional and professional types of businesses. Some have even moved further to professionalize non-family managed type of family-owned business, meaning it is now called as a family-owned business, not a family-run business, because it's managed by non-family members who are probably more talented in ways than family members. So that's the message of that book, no? And we would like to open the horizon to the founders on this. Next slide, please. Highly success. By the way, can you continue, please? This was a study made by Dr. Jeannie Santiago. Well, she's from LaSalle, no? Which is actually a very good school also. I'm just trying to be careful here. Baka mayroong mga Lasalista dito, no? Marami. Okay, LaSalle is, I would not term it as the other school. It's a very good school, no? Actually, Jeannie and I are very good friends. When it comes to family business, we collapse our boundaries, no? We only raise them up when it comes to basketball, all right? And the Ateneo, of course, is the champion, as you know. Sabi ni Jeannie, and this is a study she made, Philippine context, no? We have to introduce likely successors to the family business while they're still young. And actually, I saw an article in Inquirer that says tycoons of tomorrow in training, no? Young children, no? And so it jives with what she studied and what the tycoons today are doing, no? Preparing potential successors by providing opportunities to display their leadership potential. Next slide, please. Selecting successor on the basis of competence, family relationship, employee relationship, and one who upholds the family vision and legacy. And I'd like to add to that, one who upholds family values that the family actually has put in place, no? So this is the study of Jeannie Santiago, which we considered in our program of succession planning in Ateneo, no? And a timeline for the succession needs to be put in place. Hindi po pwedeng forever. We encountered a family where the parents were in their 90s and the children were already in their 60s. And the children approached us and said, Ricky, you know, we've been promised by our parents this business will be ours one day. And we believe them. But ang compensation namin napakababa because they said this will be yours one day and we would like you to know the value of money. My God, we're in our 60s and we've been suffering slave rates as far as pay in the business is concerned. So I asked them, so what do you want me to tell your parents? And Ricky, by the way, our parents are still healthy. Mukhang magtatagal pa sila. No? Sabi ko, I don't want to prescribe that you poison your parents for your happiness, but maybe we should talk to them in their transition while they're still there, they're still strong. And so we actually were able to talk to the parents. We did a plan. They bought the plan. And this was like 10 years ago. I have not checked with the family if how the children are doing. They probably have inherited the business in their retirement and pass it on to the third, no? I'm sure the parents most likely are gone, no? And most likely they died peacefully in relation to the business. Okay, low battery na po to, so hindi ko na nakikita, no? My dear technicians, are you there? I don't see my slide, so I have to step here. Okay. This is still a continuation of the study of Jeannie Santiago. Sabi niya, common traits and beliefs of highly successful succession experiences in the Philippines ito, ha? Very strong attachment to the family. Family members who are not power conscious, respect for one another regardless of generation, concern in protecting. All these are summarized in a way that says harmony in the family is important. Okay? Next slide, please. Now we talk about our center. I'm not a hard seller of our program, but I just want you to be exposed to it so you get the totality of what it's like to go through the process of succession. Next slide, please. We are actually very sensitive to the feelings and emotions of founders. In the Western style, they just give you a list of what to do. Okay, you want succession, here the list. Homework niyan. They leave it up to you. Not in our case. We want, because from our experience, they come back to us and says, Ricky, paano namin gagawin ito? And so we are very sensitive to the age factor of the founder and the parents. Physically, they get to be slower. Diminishing creativity is something that happens. You know what it meant, no? The younger people are actually more innovative, etc. So tanggapin natin, there's a diminishing creativity which is not actually all good for the business. Relevance to changing times, adaptability to changing times, mabagal or ayaw, all right? And I can actually show you a result of our workshop which we did in Ateneo before with the elders and the younger generation. Feeling that they're the messiah of the business, no? Messiah complex. No? I alone started this business, grew it. I alone can continue this business. Sandali lang ho, you're not going to live forever. So if you want this business to continue, learn to pass it to the younger generation. Okay? How to deal with children in joining the family, relationship issues, conflict resolutions, etc. all come into the picture. We've dealt with the family again before where the children were all involved except for the eldest son. Business is very successful. This is from Mindanao. And the father in front of everyone said, that son of mine is lazy, not interested in the business. But when we talked to the son, he said, I want to work in the business, but I don't want to work with my father. You have just observed, he humiliated me in front of everyone. Why do I want to work for him? So relationship issues, conflict issues are actually undercurrent issues. Next slide, please. That's on the elders. This is on the children. We ask the children, do you have the passion in joining the business? Because some may not have. And we have to respect them. I'm not a management person. I'm an artist. I'm a physician. I'm a lawyer, all the other professions. And therefore, I'm not interested in working for the business. But I'm an owner or a potential owner. So we still need you to be part of the family because you are an owner. You're not completely divorced from the business. That's what we explained to them. Competence. I may have the passion, but I don't have the competence. That's easy. We will bring you to Ateneo to learn. All right. We will give you seminars, etc. Competence can be developed. Diba? Values. Are you aligned with the values of the family? We will basically consider values in the assessment. Aligned with the vision and mission of the family in terms of how to grow the business. Diba? In businesses, you have the vision, mission. And so, where do we want this business to be in the next 5 years? Who is the best person to bring us there? That's where you align succession. Of course, the dynamics with the parents and the dynamics with the siblings come into the picture. You have My first example, dad says, you be the CEO and the president, but I manage the business. May problema tayo doon, no? By the way, the daughter actually is on the medical field, but she had to learn and study management to be able to run the company well. And she's actually doing well, but the father continues to interfere. Ang masakit pa doon, the father sees maraming pera, gets money for his own personal projects that are not doing any good for the business. I'm just trying to complicate things here, no? Dynamics with siblings, the Janson family. The second example I gave you, inter-sibling issues surface. Next slide, please. And so this is what we try to do in the Ateneo Family Business Center. Number one, we want to educate family members and the founders. That's what I'm trying to struggle with now with you, right? Hopefully you're picking up. Number two, we want to assess candidates. Your own personal candidates, let's assess them so that we would know whether they are fit, needs analysis, where they lack things so that they can be developed and eventually fit. And number three, orientation in the business itself. Walk through the different departments. Can you, next slide, please? We identify family members. No? Let me just, I have my pointer here. We identify family members. We consider actually the identification of the founders seriously. So we ask the founders, whom do you want to succeed? Sabihin nila, I have 1, 2, and 3. Itong priority. And we actually bring them in. And then we do an assessment. In that assessment, we apply tools to help the founder know who is the most fit in terms of taking over or the least. The most fit, anong kulang niya? Tulungan mo kami to basically help him. That's what we do, no? And next slide, please. So we do a core competence, leadership competencies, functional competencies. I don't want to go into the details of this. We apply this so that we will be able to help the family and the founders look at the evaluation and assessment so that they get to be more objective in choosing who the next leader will be. Hindi po face value. Hindi right away the eldest or the youngest. No? It is a process. Next slide, please. Once the strength and the areas of improvement have been determined, any gap, we work with the family, we work with the founders on how to fill it up. An individual development program is developed with our help, with the approval of the family. Next slide, please. So these family members go through the process of developing themselves, and in the end, we decide, we pick, and we recommend who is the best successor. And the family decides. We do not force the issue, but they decide based on numbers, evaluations, subjectivity, of course, is included. It's up to them, but they have a basis for decision making. And that's where we step in. Eventually, when they have chosen a successor, many times the successor is still overwhelmed. So we help and prepare a program that the successor will have a training for all the departments of the business. And we help the department heads come out with the program to make sure that what they are actually rendering to the would-be successor is very helpful because again, department heads are not necessarily trainers. So we assist. In the exposure of the successor in the different departments, we ask the founder and the parents to join and the other family members so that it's not just the successor learning, everyone learns. Parents, because through this process, the parents and the founders eventually, their worry about can my younger generation children handle the business would be significantly minimized. They'll be very, very comfortable in the transition period. And the children, on the other hand, will not feel overwhelmed because there is a roadmap on how they learn the business. Next slide, please. Malapit na matapos. Next one, please. Eventually, after all those processes, the founder and the parents now will actually transfer responsibility and authority with milestones, with a timeline. It can take 3 years, 5 years, depending on the volume of responsibility and authority. But the end of the timeline, the parents can now retire, go on vacation, take a cruise, peace of mind that the business is in good hands, and let the children now take over. All right? Next slide. This is actually a workshop we did in Ateneo 2006. No? Tagal na. And yet the results are still relevant today. Oh, sorry, I'm not shouting at you. What I'm going to do is the issues of the elders and the younger generation, we try to see which ones we have actually helped regarding the concerns. No? In that workshop, we divided the older generation and the younger. Yung older generation, we put them in one classroom and told them, tell us your problems with your children. They're not here. Tell us. The same thing, kayong younger generation, bring out all your issues about your parents and the founders. They're not here. They're in the other room. And the results were these. No? Next slide, please. Next one. Next one. Eto mga founders. These were their issues. Number one, no succession planning at all for the business. Alam na pala ninyong walang succession. But sabi niya, we don't know. We just know that we don't have a plan and we should have a plan and we're not sure if we want to have that plan. Okay? The founders refuse to adapt to changes. Okay. Relevance to changing times. Realized. Originators have trouble letting go. I'm the founder. I started this business. I don't want to let go. But sir, you're going to retire one day. You'll be disabled one day. You're going to die one day. So you better learn how to let go. I don't want to talk about that. So, tapos na, no? Pag ganon. That one we dealt with. Itong mga naka-highlight, no? Number 4, I'm not sure if we've dealt with it in this particular succession. Children and in-laws can't maintain the vision of founders. But iba yun. Fear of letting outsiders in. There's a big difference now between the founders and the younger generation. The younger generation have more professionalism in their thinking compared to the older generation. And this is where we want to settle the differences. Next slide, please. Still with the founders. Balance between respect for elders and having to embrace change. They were used in dictating, but at the same time, the children also need to embrace change for the business. And this is something that we think we were able to work on in the process of succession planning. Who to choose among the children, sibling rivalry. Well, it's very, very clear. No? We're into that and minimizing the rivalry or helping you choose. Lack of motivation to work by offsprings. Is it because of you, the founder? Just like the example I gave, please do not make a quick judgment on the children. We ask them to also look at themselves because they could be the cause. No? Next slide, please. Issues naman ito ng younger generation. What did they say? What is the succession plan envisioned by the founders? We don't have any. That's where we step in. Shoes of founders too big to fill. Their success track record is intimidating. Why? Because they were just brought to the business quickly. They were not exposed before. The tycoons of today are actually exposing their younger children at an early age so that they get to be acclimatized with the business. Hindi po biglaan. Overwhelmed by the magnitude of business, especially for diversified companies. The same story, all right? Next slide, please. Need to manage expectations, define roles among siblings, and maybe other relatives. This is where the professionalism sets in. That's why we expose would-be successors to the different facets of the business in the presence of the founder and the family members so that they get to be exposed to where they excel, where they can do better. We make these assessments. No? How to manage the role as a family member versus member of the business, the balancing thing of family and business. Next slide, please. Okay, my last slide. This is a magazine that was released just last month, March 2023. Forbes magazine, Vincent Low Tapp's daughter, Stephanie. They're into real estate, big business, I think in China. Can you please flash the next slide? This is what it says. In the magazine, succession is never easy, says Vincent Law. That's the father. Key to the process were consultations with his children and management. The talks went on for the better part of a decade, says Stephanie, the daughter. We all sat together to discuss responsibility, what's expected of us, and how to better craft the legacy, she says. So there is this process that they already integrated. No? They all work together on a family constitution, which is another topic, no? Which Stephanie describes as a guide for the company and the culture the family wants to create for coming generations. It was important to make sure our values were aligned. So my entire presentation does not contradict this. It actually enhances our presentation together with this actual experience. So I'd like to end there and thank you for your attentiveness.
Thank you very much, sir, for that very wonderful presentation. Now we'll have our open forum for those who have questions for our very good speaker. Yes, sir, Tony.
Mr. President, what is your succession plan? Yeah. Then you should talk to your classmate, Ricky. Tomorrow. Good afternoon. Ricky, I was seated beside Bimbo, President Bimbo. And when you gave the example of the Yanson family, Bimbo claimed that he knows them, he knows the children. Okay, and Bimbo claimed, I'm only asking because Bimbo is falling asleep. So I decided to ask the question for Bimbo. Anyway, Bimbo claimed that the father gave the children chances to run the business, one after the other. And his final choice was the younger one. Okay. So I was just thinking, if he knew his children were gonna fight in the end and all of that, 4,000 buses, why couldn't he just have given 1,000 bus to one, 1,000 to the other, right? And then there was no need to fight. Okay. And then, is that too simplified? Or is that in the family business, Ateneo family business, sort of? Thank you.
Thank you, Ton, for the additional enlightenment on the Yanson family. Actually, my mentioning about them are those that I picked up from the news, no? So I was unaware that the father actually tried them all. So if the father did try them all, hopefully the results based on the trials should have been transparent, hopefully, to the other family members, because you'd like to share the results. Yes.
Thank you. Let me just add a few things, no?
Yeah.
I got to know that family well because I'm one of their major suppliers for those 4,000 buses. So the problem with the father, the founder, no, is although he brought in first Roy, the oldest one, and the comments, and then the next one was Ricky, and then the next one was Leo Ray. They were saying that, yeah, we were brought in, but lahat naman ng decision namin, he overrules. Okay, so pareho lang, parang like that, your other example that he sat beside him for so long, but not really giving them power. So it was really a failure as an exercise for the father, but because he built that from scratch, and so like your other examples, he really feels he's the only one who knows how to run the business. So that's part of the problem. So he gave them chance, but it was not really much of a chance, I think.
Yeah, so thank you so much. It's a chance given, but the decision-making process was still given to him, di ba? Sayang lang, no? It's actually a very frustrating experience for the younger generation to be given this position, and yet you don't have a control for that position. So again, it's the planning for the succession that needs to be in place, and truthfully have the transfer of power and authority given through time, so that eventually at the end of that period of the timeline, the parents or the founders will now exit and the children will have full authority on the business. After all, the mom and dad are still on the board, so they can still actually, they still know what's going on in the business. Yeah. Yes, I've also actually met the family. We had lunch with them, but I was surprised that when that thing happened. No? But I did meet them years before that, no? When the father was still around.
They never engaged the business center, the Ateneo Business Center. Yeah. So it never got consummated as a contract or as a deal.
Father was actually discussing about succession, which in the discussion following yung kay Bimbo, he was not really talking about succession. He was just talking about getting them involved, but I still run the business. No, that's where our conversation was just going around and around, because he would not leave such an issue.
Hi. You know, when our private property is taken away from us by government, we call that communism. And when things that we own are taken away from us, it's called communism, because we own it. Now, there's a very popular TV series now in HBO called Succession. And the story revolves around the children trying to take away this media empire that the dad built, by force. So, what are your views when, the children want to take it and the dad says, well, akin to eh.
Let me first deal with the other portion of the question of Ton, no? I think I didn't deal with that. I think you did mention that why didn't you just divide 1,000 bus? This is our position in the center, not necessarily the position for all. What we adopt in our center is whatever family business mom and dad started and the children get involved is to grow that business rather than fragment the business to the different family members. Because it may happen that that business itself will be dissolved because each family member is putting up their own business. And if I give you 1,000 buses, through time, we will encounter each other and run into conflict with each other because we're all growing our business. And you cannot command me to stay, yan lang ang franchise mo, ito lang ang franchise mo. No, we will be encroaching most likely into the turf of each and every one. So that's a long-term situation that we see. So we really, in terms of our position, grow the family business. Diversify the family business. Let the children do it. And whoever has the competence in such a diversified business on a particular field, let that family member run it, but we all still own the business. So that's, maybe that's debatable, but that's where we stand in terms of how we want to grow the business, because we preserve what has been started, and nothing prevents us from diversifying and growing it, and sometimes just put aside the original business because it's not relevant anymore, but still the family is intact in growing many more businesses. Maybe just like the Gokong Ways, just like the Aboitis family, they're supposed to be intact and diversifying in many more. We want many of our family businesses to be empires, no? To be successful. Going back to your issue, sir. Ano nga ba yun? Sorry.
Give to the kids. And sometimes the kids are not interested. They're not interested in the business.
Okay.
Diba? At all. All of the kids.
So you're saying, sir, that the father will...
One issue is the founder, it's his business. He doesn't really want to leave it with his kids. And then the other one is the kids don't even want to get involved in the business because they're doctors, they're professionals, they're doing something else.
And what happens to the business?
So that's my question, because the modern thinking is, you really separate management from governance. No?
Yeah.
And if you have, the children who may not be interested in the business can still be board members of that business,
Yes.
but not be part of that.
Yes,
no?
it's possible.
So I'm actually helping you to, para you can talk about governance.
When family members on a particular generation are not interested in managing the business, it does not mean that, we get rid of the business. No, they stay on the board. They're owners. And on the board level, they can direct where the business goes, but the running of the business itself, the implementation of what they have decided, will be done by management who may not be family members, but basically are non-family members. This is what you call now the family-owned business rather than a family-run business. And they can grow. Who knows, on the next generation, there may be family members who may be interested. Let them be qualified, let them join the business and grow the business. So the business stays and the business can be diversified rather than get rid of it or sell it. No? Of course, you always have a choice of selling the business, just like what we did. But other than that, you can wait for the next generation. But in the meantime, have an outsider run it. They're just as good or sometimes even better, right? Because you reduce the dynamics of conflict in the management of the business. Yes, sir. Yes, it was there. Yeah. A constitution, actually, anong component ng constitution? These are rules that the family members have agreed to be put in place to minimize our vulnerability to conflict. If we all commit to the rules, that's something that should be given. No? So if we have rules, then we commit to the rules, we substantially reduce our possibility of conflict. And the reduction of the possibility of conflict brings our harmonious levels to a higher degree. And we are more harmonious, then the succession planning process is something that can be done in an easier, less conflicting manner. So yun yung after effect of having a constitution or rules in place. Because in the constitution, we have put also structures where the discussions of the successor takes place in a formal structure represented by family members to execute that succession planning process. So may contribution yung constitution in the harmony of the family and the succession planning process. These are all linked together.
Okay, we only have time for two last questions. No more. Okay. Yes. Andrew. Can we have a mic?
Hi, Mr. Mercado. Have you ever dealt with this situation where the founder elects a successor and then the successor isn't great? And then yeah, like oh, that was a mistake. Have you ever encountered like that situation where, you know, a successor was chosen, probably not the best successor? Is there a way to remedy that, right? Without destroying the relationships between the family?
I'm trying to understand your question. You have the founder.
Yeah, so we have the founder.
And then the second generation.
And then the successor of the founder, right?
First founders, first gen, second gen, mga anak.
Sure.
And then
that chosen successor isn't doing a good job.
the successor is not doing their job.
Yeah. How, like,
What happens?
What
Okay.
happens?
In the integrated in a family constitution are rules, all right? And one of the popular provisions of family businesses in crafting their constitution is, what do we do with family members who are working and not performing? And so they answer the question. Eventually, the popular provision that they end up with would be family members who are working in the family business will be evaluated. If they persistently underperform, they will be removed from management. That's the rule. Even if you're the CEO, president, family member, you will be evaluated by the board composed of family member owners. That's the rule. And if that's the rule, then we all abide by it. So if I'm not performing well and I persistently underperform and I cannot justify my underperformance, then based on our rules, we will remove you from management, but you will continue to be an owner. we will have to replace you because we all get affected by your performance in our business. So that's how it is. And even prior to that, many of the rules will say, for a family member to work in the family business, you have to qualify. So they put qualifications. So the screening is in a very professional manner, but we all have to agree. That's the purpose of the rules. If we don't have those rules, a family member who's underperforming will say, who are you to say I'm not doing well? And who are you to say I will be removed? Wala tayong rules dyan. Then you have an escalation of emotions of discussions. May problema. Tito.
I suppose this kind of example is what happened to the Yanson family. Each one had her turn, and then eventually it was decided that the youngest was the most competent, but the others could not accept it. I think that's more like my question. You have a constitution, you have laid down the rules, but what if one does not want to respect the majority decision?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question to one of our members here, Philip Sullivan. How did Cargill go about it? Because it was a family-owned corporation, still is. How did they go about this transition? Philip is the Cargill.
Well, the Cargill family removed all family members from management. All. So the most senior Cargill member in the company, I think, is in research. So they're run entirely by professionals. Because, you know, after so many generations, right, the family members, the heirs all want to be doing different things. Well, for one, they've become immensely wealthy, and so for them, yeah, they sit on the board, but they're represented a lot by trusts. So but it's been like that. I think the last family member, actually interesting story with Cargill is the patriarch of Cargill actually had one overseas assignment in his lifetime. It was in the Philippines. He was the country manager in 1946 of the Philippines, and then he never had any other foreign posting after that. But he gave up his role as patriarch in the late 80s, I think it was. And then it became completely professionalized.
Well, I hope Ricky doesn't mind this, but following up on this nice topic, no? Are you aware that the Ayalas are almost close to that situation when there would be no Ayala on top? There's only one left. Fernando retired, and now almost 99% of the executives of Ayala are all professionals. Okay, so it's family owned, but not family run. And the Boytises, whom we're close to, there are partners in some of the businesses, are also reaching the same level of situation. Most of the subsidiaries of the Boytises are already under professional management. Even their flagship project, the power company, which is where they started, is actually under a professional.
Yeah.
No. So this is very imminent. It's a situation as companies mature to over 100 years, 150 years, this will happen, you know. And so most companies, like in the States, are just family owned, but not family managed. Is that right, Ricky?
Okay. Thank you very much, PP Tito, Palilio. And truly a very interesting and engaging discussion, very engaging topic. Let's give our guest speaker a very big round of applause. And for the finale, I call on President Michael for his response and adjournment.
I think this is the first time it's already 2:05 and nobody's leaving. That's how successful this session has been. I will say that I am very happy to have been Ricky's classmates since grade school. But today I'm even happier that I have been one of his students. Teacher, thank you very much. So, I mean, fantastic. Everybody enjoyed. Ricky, maraming salamat. Long live family business. So I'd like to give an appreciation to Ricky. First of all, here is 55 years of rendering service to the community by the Rotary Club of Makati. That's it. You have a lot more, no? Oh. Next one is a certificate of appreciation for having contributed to our knowledge in making our lives better.
Thank you, Michael.
And finally, a bottle of wine with which to enjoy.
All right.
Thank you. We have a picture here. On behalf of the Rotary Club of Makati, maraming salamat. May I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sunny. Nice to see you. Terry.